As a bookkeeper, you might be worried about what happens if I make a mistake and I get sued. Most likely, you're not gonna have to deal with that. But today we're gonna talk about 3 things to help protect you from getting sued. Those 3 things are setting up your business as an entity, having a good contract, and having insurance. So we're going to walk through some specifics, starting out with creating an LLC. And remember, of course, I'm not a lawyer, I'm a bookkeeper, so this is just me speaking about my experiences as a bookkeeper. So definitely consult an actual lawyer if needed. So if you're starting a bookkeeping business, I do recommend setting up an LLC, which is a Limited Liability Company. There are some other options. You can be a sole proprietor. I've been taught that an LLC gives you the most protection. So it protects your personal assets and kind of separates them from your business assets. So if someone does sue you, they're not going to come after like your house or the money in your personal bank account. And shameless plug, I do have a class that helps you set up your bookkeeping business in 30 days, walks you step by step through that, and part of it is creating that LLC. I'll put the link for it in the description box if you're interested. And actually, I was just talking with this lawyer. We did like a, like a workshop with this lawyer, and you can see the recording in that class. But she told me something that I didn't really realize before. And that is, first of all, you can pick the date that your LLC starts. So say you're starting your business, you start working for a client, and then on the 15th day of working for this client, you start your LLC. And fast forward to the future, maybe like 40 days later, your client has a problem with something you did on day 1. But remember, on day 1, you did not have the LLC created yet. So days 1 through 14 are not covered by the LLC. So then in theory, for the beginning, before you're covered, your personal assets could be at risk for that time period. So when you create that business entity, make sure it starts when you actually started working. I'm not sure if there's rules about like how far you can put it in the past, but definitely look into that when you are creating it. And this just takes you a little time and a little money to figure out how to actually do it. You go to your Secretary of State's website, and I think California is the most expensive, but usually they're like $20 to $200 to create an LLC. And some people want to hire an attorney to do it. You can do it yourself if you just put in a little effort of figuring out how to do it. And I do partner sometimes with Andrea, which is the lawyer I was talking about. She has a business called The Legalpreneur, which is designed for entrepreneurs. So I'm going to leave her links down below. I think she has a specific service that helps you set up an LLC, and then she has some contract bundles that I'm going to talk about next. If we haven't met before, my name is Morgan. My website is FinePoints.biz, and I have a new bookkeeper video every week. It helps me out a ton if you give this video a thumbs up. All right, so creating contracts for your bookkeeping business. I know this can feel kind of overwhelming, but I really do think it's important. So this just makes sure you and your client are on the same page. It helps protect you, it helps protect them. It also just makes you look like professional, like you know what you're doing. So a couple different types of contracts is a bookkeeping service agreement. So that's when you first start. What are the services you're providing? I do have another video that the thumbnail looks like this. You can check out after you watch this that goes into that in more detail. And I do give you one of those agreements in that class. I also mentioned my class. Right now, the class costs $150. So that might be worth it too if you just want that contract. And in that free video I just mentioned, I do have a quick tutorial about how I get contracts signed. I just use the free service HelloSign. I think you can have 3 free contracts signed per month. At least that was true like a year ago. Or you can find a similar service that does the same thing. A couple other contracts that are going to be helpful are a cancellation of services. So figure out like if you don't want to be their client anymore or vice versa, how do you cancel? Like, do you need to do a letter? Or what's the process going to look like for that? And then if you do prepare taxes as a bookkeeper, have an agreement about tax prep. I have a video on should you be a tax preparer as a bookkeeper. The thumbnail looks like that. And if you have a website for your business, you technically should have something called terms of use and a privacy policy. So you can do some of your own research on that. Or the lawyer I mentioned, the Legalpreneur, she has a bundle where you get multiple things. So I think you get the info for your website, and then a contract, and then that termination letter. And I think you get a discount if you use my link. I'll put in there if there's a code or anything you need, but I think just click on the link and it's a discounted price for the bundle. Okay, so retracking. So we got the LLC, we got the contracts. The third thing is get insurance. So as a business owner, you get what's called errors and omissions insurance. And again, I have a dedicated video on that, so I'm not going to go super in detail. I don't want to bore you guys that have already watched that video, but all this stuff I'm going to put in the description box. And in the unlikely event that you actually do get sued by someone, what do you do? All right, so I have 5 steps that you can do. And actually, the first little step is kind of a bonus, and that is see if you can work it out with the client outside of the legal system. Maybe you can grab like a neutral third-party mediator and talk it through and see if you can come to an understanding. But the first step you want to do is contact an attorney. Secondly, notify your insurance company. So that E&O insurance that you got, let them know you're getting sued and see what they're able to cover in terms of legal fees and damages. Third, gather any documents to support your case if this is receipts or reports or emails, and you can give these to your attorney. 4 is respond to the lawsuit. So there'll probably be instructions on what you're supposed to do if you're supposed to appear somewhere or what your response is supposed to be. And number 5, consider settlement options. So a lot of times these are cheaper and quicker than, going to court. And quick personal story, my husband owns a business and he actually did get sued one time. It actually wasn't something for the time period that he was the owner, but he did have to deal with it. And they were able to settle outside of court, and the insurance was the one who paid for the settlement. So it felt really stressful at the time. We're like, oh my gosh, what do I do? This is like the worst thing ever. But if you just kind of follow the steps, and if you have that insurance in place, hopefully you should be able to get through it without too much trouble. Let me know in the comments if you've ever been worried about getting sued.